Today we're going to be reviewing some webtoons and some comics. These were submitted by their creators, and I'm going to be offering my opinion on what they're doing well and what I think they could be doing better. Hey, Walter here, doing what I can to make comics easier because it shouldn't be overwhelming or daunting to tell your story. I make videos about making comics. If that's something you're into, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So this is gonna be my first critique video, and I've been struggling trying to figure out a good structure for these, and I'm still not sure that I found one, so this is where I need your help. Please watch the video and then comment down below on what you think is working, what you think I could do better. Do you like the length? Is it too long, too short? Did I do too many comics? Did I not do enough comics? Did I not cover the information that you wanted to see? Or should I focus on one aspect more than any other aspect? So please let me know in the comments so we can make these videos as helpful, as informational, as entertaining as possible to not only the creators, but also people who are watching but didn't create the comic. I'm gonna give a general disclaimer here. All reviews and critiques are by nature biased. They're all affected by our personal preferences and aesthetics, even stuff based on classical traditional teachings or rules or guidelines was somebody's opinion like maybe 1,000 years ago, but it's been ingrained in our culture that that is what works the best. For example, in the United States, we read from left to right, but if you wanted to, you could write from right to left if you wanted to. Most people aren't gonna want to read that, but you could definitely do that. My critique would be you should write from left to right, but it's your artist prerogative to do whatever you want. So take my reviews or my critiques in this video in the exact same way. I'm gonna say what I think you should probably do, and you can either accept that, disregard it, or modify it to work best for your situation and your style. One general critique for all of these videos is get your lettering straight. I made a video about lettering. Go check out that video. Make your lettering look professional. It should not be an afterthought. It doesn't take too much to make your lettering professional. You can look 90% pro level with just a little bit of basic knowledge and some time on your part to make sure that you're following those rules. There's no reason for your comic to have bad lettering. First up is Horace Hoover by Fabrizio Aiello. This is a really solid comic. I could totally see this being published by a major publisher. The figure, the poses, storytelling, background, perspective, coloring are all on point. Your lettering is really working against you though. It's like you didn't plan your panels with lettering in mind. Always thumbnail your comic with the balloon as part of the composition. It is comics after all and not movie storyboards. The lettering, the balloons, the dialogue are very important. You need to make sure there's room for them. You also want to make sure that your balloons have a clear path for the reader's eye. It should be a nice, simple path. And personally, I prefer all my dialogue to be at the top of the panels because this lets the reader kind of just go straight across. They don't have to search for your lettering. And this is the most obvious example I can show. The reader here is either going to miss this dialogue down here or just be pulled into the panel down below, which isn't the right panel, of course. And just as a simple writer's note, I think this line is probably overkill on the whole dreaming joke, and it slows down the urgency of the scream and the action of the whole story. Now this logo is a masterful design. I love it, but it is pretty busy and it's a little hard to read. I think upping the contrast by making the logo white might help it pop a lot more, and also removing some of these extra tiddly bits and adding some space between the words will help with the readability a lot. Now this smoky hand is also kind of getting lost, and I think it has to do with the size and color contrast. Increasing the size of the hand and then also lightening the background colors is going to make that hand pop even more. Which is going to help actually the entire image overall, because now Hoover here is also going to pop off the background because the background's lighter and he's darker. And while we're at it, we can also pump up the volume on these little smoke tendrils that you have because I think they look really cool. And while we're doing that, we can also make the curtains behind Hoover look like they're being affected by some kind of evil wind, and it's really going to up the drama of that picture. Now this little girl doesn't seem like she's reacting that much to what's going on, and that might have been intentional, so I'll leave that up to you if you planned on just keeping that cover a little bit more low key. The other thing I noticed is that a lot of the panels are mid shots. All the characters and all the panels are about the same size. Yes, you do have a few panels where you do a close-up or pull really far back, but for the most part, all the panels start feeling very similar, and it's not creating a lot of back and forth movement with the camera. One quick anatomy thing, I think you're drawing the eyes on the girl a little too close together. Also, if you want to make the kid look a little bit more like a kid, you can increase the forehead size and also decrease the chin size. And to me, it kind of looks like she's wearing lipstick. Overall, I dig the whole vibe of the story. I'm a sucker for that low-key supernatural mystery stuff. Really solid work. Next up is Upgrade for Life by Ija Warrior. Now this was a short story contest submission, so I know you were working under a time crunch, so I'll try to keep that in mind. So this comic is a really great example of using a simplified background, but still establishing the location effectively. This panel of the boxing ring with the lights, and then this next panel with the crowd, are all we really need to understand where we are. You could have spent a crap ton of hours drawing all these details of the arena and all the people and all the lights and like camera crew and stuff, and sure, it would have looked really freaking cool, but at the end of the day, the storytelling result would have been the same. And that's like something that I want a lot of people to realize, is you don't have to draw crazy stuff. You just need to let the reader know where we are in the story. One thing I would change is I would put more space between all of your panels. Part of the fun of Webtoon is the scrolling. So if you're smashing all these panels right next to each other, you're kind of cheating us of that swipe enjoyment. Also, watch what you're doing with your lettering and your grammar. Sometimes you start with ellipses, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you end with periods, other times you don't. There's commas before ellipses. Sometimes you're missing periods. So just in general, just make sure that you're doing your grammar and your lettering consistently and correctly. You're also using a lot of straight-on foreshortening where the hand or the object is completely blocking the other parts of the body, so it kind of feels like it's just a floating disembodied hand. So you can try turning the camera so we can see more of the body, and that's also going to let you show more speed because you can see the body parts moving across the screen as opposed to just coming straight at the camera. There's no sense of speed there, or at least not as much speed. Your storytelling and your character acting are really strong. So even though I praised your use of simple backgrounds earlier, I think you can afford to start spending some time upping your game as far as background and perspective. It's really going to bring your level of your comics to the next level. So many levels will all be your levels. Next up is Sakura Key by Sage Joy. I think you did a really great job with character acting. All the little emotional reactions and pacing are super humorous and well executed. Like I said, I think the pacing is really great. The way you're using gutter space between the panels feels really solid and helps with the execution of the storytelling. But I gotta mention that these thought balloons are really intense. Like, they look like speed lines, so it feels like he's shouting his thoughts inside of his head. I think these should be a little bit more low-key. Standard practice is usually just to use cloud shapes, but you could do dotted lines or something slightly grayed out or whatever you can think of, but these ones for me are just way too loud. Speaking of the dialogue, I think it's a bit heavy-handed and could also be tightened up a little bit. For example, here, where she says, "Have a safe trip, I'm going to miss you." I think that could be simplified to just, "I am going to miss you." And then here, you just want to make sure that you're using proper grammar and punctuation so that the sentences read more clearly. And I think this line could also be tightened up to something like, "When you come back, bring me something, but it's got to be cute, okay? You won't forget about me, will you, Ace?" Another example here could just be, "She's so tiny, how the heck did she tackle me?" I don't think you need all that explanation about like how she's tiny and how he's average build. I think that will come across with just, "She's so tiny, how the heck did she tackle me?" I can also see that you're using 3D models for your backgrounds, which I have no problem with. And I think it looks okay, especially here in the first scene. There is a difference though between your organic character line work and your rigid background line work. So I would find ways to try to merge them so they look more cohesive together. However, the background for the school scene is a little bit too jarring because the buildings are just stark white. So it's very obvious. It feels like things are missing, like they're not complete. In the first scene, some of your models had color to them, so it felt a little bit more natural. But since this is a very stark white, it feels very computer generated. If you had some wall colors, floor color, or posters on the wall, I think that would go a long way to making it feel more cohesive as an illustration. I also looked at one of your more recent episodes and you seem to be doing a better job with the whole 3D model integration to your 2D line work. And here you want to be really careful with photo textures. Photo textures are going to have their own perspective and they're also highly rendered. So if you're going to use something like this, you want to make sure that you're doing work to make it look like it's part of the artwork and not just something separate. Okay, so this part of episode 1 really confused me. I'm not sure what's happening here. I can tell he's reacting to something behind him, like maybe something fast, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. And that's just how the episode ends. In this next episode, I guess he's being pushed into the closet or something. It just looks like he's leaning against the door, so I'm not sure. And then in the next panel, we have this girl on top of him and he says he was tackled, so I'm guessing she jumps from behind him and knocks him into the closet. But it's also kind of confusing because you flip the camera to where the characters are on the opposite side of the camera. So looking at this, I would have thought that his back would be against the door, when actuality, her back is against the door. So you move the camera around, so it kind of messed with my brain. And that's called the 180-degree rule, where you want to try to keep the camera on the same side of the characters all the time, so your reader will keep the orientation of where everything is and they don't get confused. I did a video about this, so check out that video if you want more details about that. And you're also breaking the 180-degree rule here also with the key. Because he's handing the key to her from the right side, it makes me think that she's holding the key because she is actually on the right side in all of the other panels. And this part with the ice is a little confusing. It seems like he learned how to do the ice spell too quickly maybe. A different way you could have done it is maybe have the fast magic lady. She could have been charging after him, and in fear he accidentally casts this ice spell which makes her slip, and he can be like, what the heck, how did I learn how to turn a sidewalk into an ice cube? So it doesn't feel like all of a sudden he's just like this master of this thing that he's never heard of before. For the last one, let's take a quick look at Pembroke's Tale by Korg's Cough. So I don't have too much to say about this one. The art is gorgeous and the storytelling is super solid. There's this part right here where the character is looking at the tombstone, and then you go in for a close-up on the tombstone. I think that is great. And then you have another sequence here where you show the close-up of the character, and then you show what he's looking at, and then you do another extreme close-up of the character, and then you transition that to the present time. I think that is really great emotional storytelling. But I would be really careful with panel transitions like this where you have no gutter space. It's really important to let the reader know when there's a new panel, and this could potentially be confusing. It could look like a single panel to the reader. In general, you're going to want more space between your panels because that's going to help with the whole swiping entertainment factor. So you want to let the reader be able to swipe and not put these panels super close together. Also, the spacing between your lettering, between each of these lines, is pretty excessive. I feel like you should bring these lines closer together. However, for these narration sections, I think the extra space actually kind of helps with that narration look. All right, that's it for today. Make sure to let me know in the comments what you thought. Were there certain aspects you would rather that I focused on? Did I cover too many comics, not enough comics? Do you want these videos to be longer or shorter? I have closed the submission form because we just got way too many, and that's why it's important to let your voice be heard on what we can do to make these videos the best that they can be, so that we can do more of these videos in the future. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you on what your thoughts are, and if you want to keep making comics easier, be sure to like, link, love, hug, and hit that sub button for more sweet, sweet goodness. Peace.